lugs-only panel can indeed be used as an indoor panel when it is fed from a disconnect that is located on the exterior of a building. However, it is important to understand the implications of using a lugs-only panel in this configuration, especially with regards to overcurrent protection and compliance with the National Electrical Code, or NEC. If the main overcurrent protection device is removed from this panel board, which would be the case if the lugs-only panel board is used as a branch circuit distribution panel, then the requirements outlined in NEC section 225.12 would have to be met. NEC section 225.12 addresses the need for a readily accessible disconnecting means for feeders. This means that the disconnecting means, in this case the outdoor disconnect, must be readily accessible to the occupants of the building. The purpose of this requirement is to ensure that the electrical supply to the building can be quickly and safely disconnected in the event of an emergency, such as a fire or electrical fault. The requirement for a readily accessible disconnecting means is generally applicable to all feeders that supply a building or structure. However, there are certain exceptions to this rule. Exception number 1 in NEC section 225.12. It could provide an exemption from this rule for branch circuit panel boards. This exception recognizes that in some cases, it may not be practical or necessary to provide a readily accessible disconnecting means for each individual branch circuit panel board. For example, if the branch circuit panel board is located in a locked room or is otherwise not readily accessible to the occupants of the building, then it may not be necessary to provide a separate disconnecting means for the panel board. In order to determine whether exception number 1 applies to a particular installation, it is necessary to carefully consider the specific circumstances of that installation. This includes the location of the branch circuit panel board, the accessibility of the panel board to the occupants of the building, and the nature of the electrical loads that are served by the panel board. When using a lugs-only panel as a branch circuit distribution panel fed from an exterior disconnect, it's critical to ensure the overcurrent protection is adequately addressed upstream at the disconnect. The disconnect must have appropriately sized fuses or a circuit breaker to protect the feeder conductors and the panel board itself. This overcurrent protection device serves as the main protection for the entire branch circuit system, and its rating must be carefully selected to coordinate with the ampacity of the conductors and the ratings of the connected equipment. Without adequate overcurrent protection at the disconnect, the entire installation would be unsafe and would not comply with the NEC. In addition to the overcurrent protection requirements, it is also important to consider the grounding and bonding requirements for the lugs-only panel and the associated equipment. The panel board must be properly grounded to the building's grounding electrode system to provide a low impedance path for fault currents. This helps to ensure that ground faults are quickly cleared, minimizing the risk of electrical shock and fire. Bonding is also essential to ensure that all metallic parts of the electrical system are electrically connected together. This helps to equalize the voltage potential between different parts of the system, reducing the risk of stray currents and electrical noise. The NEC provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding, and these requirements must be carefully followed to ensure a safe and reliable electrical installation. Another important consideration when using a lugs-only panel is the ampacity of the panel board itself. The panel board must have a sufficient ampacity rating to handle the total load that is connected to it. This rating is typically marked on the panel board enclosure. It is important to ensure that the total load does not exceed the panel board's ampacity rating. If the load exceeds the rating, the panel board may overheat, which could lead to a fire or other safety hazard. In addition to the panel board's ampacity rating, it is also important to consider the ampacity of the individual branch circuit breakers that are installed in a panel board. Each branch circuit breaker must have a sufficient ampacity rating to handle the load that is connected to that particular circuit. The ampacity rating of the branch circuit breaker must be coordinated with the ampacity of the conductors that supply the circuit. In general, the ampacity of the branch circuit breaker should not exceed the ampacity of the conductors. Finally, it is important to ensure that all electrical work is performed by qualified and licensed electricians who are familiar with the NEC and local electrical codes. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is essential to have it done by professionals who have the knowledge and experience to do it safely and correctly. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, is a comprehensive set of standards that govern the safe installation of electrical wiring and equipment. It is updated every 3 years to reflect the latest advances in electrical technology and safety practices. Compliance with the NEC is essential to ensure the safety of people and property. When using a lugs-only panel as an indoor panel fed from an exterior disconnect, it is crucial to carefully review and understand all applicable requirements of the NEC. This includes the requirements for overcurrent protection, grounding, bonding, ampacity, and other safety considerations. By following the NEC and working with qualified electricians, it is possible to safely and reliably use a lugs-only panel in this type of installation. In summary, while a lugs-only panel can be used indoors when fed from an exterior disconnect, several conditions must be met. Firstly, you must consider overcurrent protection, ensuring the upstream disconnect provides adequate protection. Secondly, NEC Section 225.12. It dictates requirements for readily accessible disconnecting means, with possible exceptions for branch circuit panel boards. Thirdly, proper grounding and bonding are essential for safety. Fourthly, the panel board's ampacity must be sufficient for the connected load. Finally, all work must be performed by qualified electricians in accordance with the NEC.